to become more innovative. So, Mr. Israel will be speaking on the topic, right, this morning. And somebody's going to be speaking on is going to be on the dead curriculums, dormant institutions, and the academic gap in the African innovation space. So let's welcome Israel Ufumaka to give his own presentation. Thank you so much, sir, for joining the call.
Yeah, thank you very much, Cosmos Academy. Good morning, everybody, from wherever you're joining across Africa and across the globe as well. Just want to say a warm welcome, and I just want to as well use this opportunity to thank the management at Cosmos Academy for giving me such an opportunity to bring this discussion today. It's something that's rare. It's something that's not so common, and but it's something that we need to discuss. So thank you again for the opportunity, and I'll be sharing my screen now. I don't know if my screen is visible.
Yeah, it's very clear.
All right, thank you. So as Ogali mentioned, my name is Israel Ufumaka. I'll just give a brief background on what I do. First of all, which he already covered, but as well, and what the topic is. So I'm a PhD researcher at the IntSav AI lab at the University of West London here in the United Kingdom. And in the past couple of years, my career, I have both industry experience and as well academic experience geared towards research R&D when I was in the industry, and as well now R&D in academics. The uniqueness of this topic to my PhD right now is the multifacetedness of my PhD. I have a background in computer science, but my PhD is in applying my computer science, specializing in echocardiography image quality assessment, building these tools, and not just building it and writing a thesis or doing a viva and shoving off the research output on the shelf of the university library, but the output of my research, and not just mine, the entire IntSav AI lab is being used by cardiologists, actual cardiologists at the Imperial College here in London and the King's College Hospital, and that is where that's the goal, that's the vision, and that's what we are doing. So it's cuts across the practicality as well as the theoretical aspect. So let's dive right into it. The topic is sounds like a lot of words joined together: that curriculum, dormant institution. One may be thinking, what's this mumble jumble of word really and actually about? But as I mentioned earlier, it's something that we all know in Africa. We all feel the impact directly or indirectly. But taking positive steps, if only a few actually taking positive steps, haven't identified this gap. Now, globally there is a gap between academia and industry, because we have, on one hand, we have the academia setting, which is a controlled experimental environment where everything is controlled, and we have the industrial environment where things are more dynamic and things are, sometimes most times commercial, profit driven, and it's more the level of control you have in the academic setting is much more different from the level of control you have in the industry setting. And already we can see that this gives a gap, because where does it leave someone from the industry coming into academia after a long time, or where does it leave someone in academia coming to the industry after a long time? It would require some level of retraining and training process all over again, forgetting some things that hasn't picked up, and all of this. Now, speaking from an African setting, we know that most industries are profit driven, margin driven, and academic settings are not. And this inevitably creates a big gap, especially in Africa, where motivations for much project is money. I believe the speaker earlier covered a bit about this. I just want to thank him for speaking about purpose and motivation and all, because that's really in my opinion, that's really where this um, orange gap comes in, because for most government organizations and and most institutions or most bodies setting up educational platforms like universities or bodies of knowledge, they don't their motivation inevitably is not to drive innovation in the heart of an average African, but geared towards profit. And this can, while good, while it promotes growth, but on one hand, on the another hand, it creates a large gap between these two settings, and which are supposed to be working in complete and perfect synergy. So when we speak about this gap, what's the impact? What are we looking at? Like I mentioned, we all know that we're in Africa. Everyone in Africa already knows that there is a problem with our academic system, or there's a problem with academic infrastructures. Private universities or younger public universities, young minds are striving from to close this gap every single day, but it doesn't it doesn't solve the problem really if only a few are able to identify this gap and work towards it. And this creates a problem as well. And we have what is called the African brain grave, where you have young thriving Africans in Africa suffering, but when they move to other environments like in Europe or in Americas that supports them, they tend to thrive at an astronomical level beyond um, the environment where they originally came from. And while this is applaudable, it's something that we should weep and cry about, because we have a few thriving when they are excited out of that environment, and we have a large population um um still in that limbo, like the speaker earlier mentioned. It's an illusion, right? And what's this mean? Let's take, for example, in South Africa, where 40, while I was in this research, preparing for this meeting, I realized that even I myself, I'm fully unaware of a lot of things. Let's take, for example, South Africa, where 43.4% of the youths are currently unemployed, um, as one concentrated example. However, an average South African for South Africa, the average youth between 15 to 24 is calls for about 60.7% of their population. This is already problematic, as we can see. As well, Africa's higher education Africa as a whole produces over 10 million, about around 10 million graduates roughly annually. It sounds good, right? But these graduates are not innovators. Yet that is why we see that the unemployment rate in Africa, statistics shows that we have about 40% in most over greater than 40% in most country. Now, why is it that this is a problem? Why is it that these statistics for unemployment rate and it seems intuitive? It comes down to the fundamental problems that we have graduates that are not transiting into innovators. And one major factor is the disconnect. And academia is supposed to be a controlled environment where we are supposed to have um, universities that produce degrees or produce students with degrees, and as well with a particular mindset, not being caught up in this limbo where we need to see, oh, we have the academic output, we keep producing theses, we keep doing our projects, we keep doing our research, we keep doing our assignments, but actually we're not addressing economic needs. And this is quite problematic. This is quite problematic. Um, I don't know, can you see the whole of my slide?
Yeah, we can see your slide, but we're just on stay on the first page.
Okay, just 1 minute. Let me stop sharing and reshare my screen again. Let me just reshare my screen again. Sorry about that. Can you see my slide?
Yeah, we can see your slide. You're on the second slide.
Yep. How about now?
Still showing on the second slide, bridging the gap between academia and innovation.
Okay, I think that's a bit problematic. But no worries, I'll just
All
present
right,
that.
it's moving up now. It's moving.
Uh, how about now?
Yeah, one crisis, the crisis.
Yeah, I guess the presenter view doesn't really change. All right, yeah. So this was a slide I was talking about the crisis currently in the academia and the industry, and the employment rate statistics. Now, a bit more about the crisis. On one hand, as you can see here, we have the academic space, and on the other hand, we have the industry space, almost showing a complete disconnect. And what can this be linked to? For most universities, especially public institutions, curriculum were reviewed like some over a decade or more away. I found out recently that a university like a university in Ethiopia um, just had not reviewed their curriculum for AI in their computer science department for since 1990, and yet the AI, as we know it, has transited way beyond that development of the late 90s. We have limited industry consultation and curriculum development, and most persons in Nigeria are familiar with the third one, which is poor placement and work placement opportunities. For example, we have the series, which is the IT placement when you get your third or fourth year, depending on the length of your course in most Nigerian universities. However, these placements, one, they're not guaranteed. Two, when you get there, even where you are stationed at, where you find these opportunities, you are not doing anything relating to the industry. Like only a few are able to get that very good opportunity and make use of it. And as well, we have programs that are theoretical, like they are bulky in theory and with very minimal, very little practical applications. And this can directly be linked to a disconnect from reality and the industry. And as the previous speaker, I'll keep making reference to the previous speaker, as the previous speaker mentioned earlier, it's a point of an illusion because you are going forward for the commercialization of your financial ambition, I would put it, and but you are stuck in putting forth the ideas to find any practical application. And as well, I remember my time at the University of Benin doing my bachelor's. When I was taking my final year, taking my final year course, selecting my electives. One of my electives, I took a course in AI. On going to the first class, which inevitably became my last class, the lecturer, the textbooks being used, the topic outline were way beyond, we're far back outdated, going to the early 2000s, late 80s, the advent of, the quiet period of AI, and not the actual groundbreaking research, groundbreaking um, computer vision technology that had just come out around that time, around 2016, 2017, roughly. And this can be really frustrating for students who actually want to push push the barrier. They get stuck, and the ends we are in that limbo where we call it when we can say that, or where people commonly say that Africa has become a brain grave. As well, for the statistics, we can see that we can feel the impacts whether we ignore it or not. Everyone can feel the socioeconomic impacts. This can be reduced greatly, and this crisis in research and development in Africa is a reality check to us, to reality check to every one of us. Um, First of all, I realized that the global R&D investments, when Africa as a whole, it's around 1.1%. And while GDP spent on R&D roughly around 1.7%, as 0.45% as against the global, which is 1.7%, we can see the disparities, the gap in these numbers already. And it's not surprising that only 0.5% of 0.5% of global patents come from Africa. It's not really surprising when you look at the numbers, and this is clearly because the limited industry research collaboration and the brain drain, leaving bet leaving because people are inevitably leaving for better opportunities, going to continents like Europe and America, where they can thrive. And another thing is, think about, from statistics, I found out that Africa has about 54 countries. However, only three of those countries are contributing to R&D at around 65.7%, and that includes Nigeria, um, Egypt, and South Africa. Um, we have about 51 countries left out in this already. Now, what is one way we can solve this problem? One way is to have interdisciplinary learning um, curriculums, because again, this is a gap already as constructs to what we have in just few of our universities. And we have, for example, university in South Africa, Pretoria universities, Nigerian university like Covenant University. Nigerian University, Covenant University is privately owned. However, in a country like Nigeria, where you have roughly around 300 million people and a very large disparity in social economic status, accessibility would remain a problem. Because if we have fewer universities um, trying their best to bridge this gap with the number of population, even if, for example, Covenant University now becomes free of charge for everybody, it still would not be, it would be capacitated. It would not be able to fulfill its original goals, which is problematic. And this means that more and more public universities and private university collaboration are needed. And we need to start thinking in an interdisciplinary way to tackle reward problem and provide a way where students can grow with specialized knowledge, and not just, oh, we have all the theoretical knowledge, we cannot think systematic, and the students are unable to think systematically, and because they themselves are taught in that systematically theoretical way that leads to some sort of that creates a burden to society inevitably. What are alternative models from what we have that works? I consider two while preparing for this meeting, given the time constraints. And one of them is the problem-based learning initiative currently employed by some universities in East Africa. And the problem-based learning, the meaning is in its name already, problem-based learning. You learn by solving problem. However, this method doesn't necessarily um, force the student to solve the problem, but it focuses on developing solutions that allow for the development of certain desirable skills and attributes towards solving the problem, such as skill acquisition, enhanced group collaboration, and communication. All these things, like critical thinking, is also important. Another method I found out that actually works is the one currently used by AIMS, which is the African Institute for Mathematical Science. What they're trying to do is to lead African social economic transformation through things like innovation, innovative scientific training, the development, which is the development of human capital for Africa, technological advances, cutting edge scientific discoveries, and public engagement in a across the continent. In the case of a site to promote scientific emergence, and have centers across Africa, about 5 centers. Ghana, they have centers in Ghana. They have a center in Ghana, Nigeria, Cameroon, Senegal, and South Africa, I think. And what we can do is to have innovations hubs within universities. And I think certain big tech companies like Google, during my university days, I benefited from tech hub in my public universities, like the Google community. AWS community was introduced during I think my final year during my bachelor's, and the OI community as well was introduced during my bachelor's. I was privileged to partake from the OI 1.0 Nigerian initiative for cyber networking. And as well, a lot of this, we can have this innovative, or we mustn't rely on very large tech industries, we can start small with these ideas we have and try as much as possible to contribute to closing this gap as best as we can. And as well, private, public and private academic partnership. This is something that I believe greatly would improve um, the gap, like sorry, widen the gap as it may seem. Now, what's the success story so far with let's take a case study of AIMS. Um, with AIMS, it's a Pan-African network for mathematical, with creating mathematical science centers. Even though it's STEM towards the STEM environment, which is the science and technology and engineering. Um, these ideas and practice being adopted by AIMS can be adopted across other fields like arts, sociology, and other across other domain. And as well, one other thing they do is the international faculty on 3 weeks teaching modules per term, I believe, and tutoring and residential knowledge, trying to skill-based assessment and knowledge acquisition. And as well, one other very important aspect is um, elimination of social economic barrier with their full-time scholarship, which is a big problem in Africa. And another thing is the bilingual approach, their bilingual approach and international caliber faculty, trying to get people to think, trying to get students to see how thought process out at other parts of the world is also very important as well to bridging this gap, because it's first of all, I believe it first of all starts in the mind, because if you're able to conceive it in your mind, you'll be able to live it out. And as well, the innovative imperative. Just another scary statistic is that Africa youth population, 60% of our population are under 25 years of age. And by 2030, if we go by those figures, by 2050, we can see that we can expect that 1/3 of the global workforce will be an African. So if we're expecting this in the next 25 years, the question is, what are we doing now to close the gap? Because as well, this gap is threatening the next 25 years of our development. And um, we can see that it's an urgency, and universities must become an innovative ecosystem, which, largely speaking, they're lagging behind currently. And as well, we must work towards not just mass producing degrees, mass producing BSc, bachelors, mass producing postgraduate degrees, but innovation driven economic required degrees. You can even add the word strategic. Government must come in, private sectors must come in, and we all must do our best as well. Now, this is a call to action that does not just speak about reform, but speak to us in a way regarding transformation. Things that we could consider as a mandatory curriculum review every couple of years, between 3 to 5 years. When curriculums are being set, we could have industry advisory board for programs to make sure that every aspect of the programs have industry impact in mind, not just theoretical. And we could work in a way where we have equivalence of a practical and project-based learning, and as well cross-institutional collaboration platforms. And as mentioned earlier, we can have innovative hub in every universities, and the public and private university framework that we can model. Just going over a bit of these statistics which I mentioned earlier. University assets, sadly, just about 5% access compared to rest parts of the world is actually very poor. And though these statistics are scary, it doesn't just end there. There is hope. And what is this hope? What do we mean by there is hope? There is hope because we here right now, we can bridge that gap. Even though these examples are quite compelling, the example of the Ethiopian AI curriculum crisis, currently also translating across other African universities. Let's take an example of a Nigerian engineering disconnect, where a computer engineering graduate learning a 20-year-old programming language. I did that during my bachelor's as well, and um, when he wants to get a job in a practical environment, he needs a complete retraining. And if you're an employer, where does that put you? Would you want to employ such a person, or would you want to employ someone who already has some or knows the latest in that particular field? All right. And the case of the South African scale, the statistics given for the South African universities or as a country, we can reflect on that as a paradox, as we have high graduate unemployment while industry reports skill shortages. It's quite sad. We all know what to do. The problem is just getting us to that point where we actually fix this problem. Now, again, reflecting on the success model that has worked so far in Africa, um, by the PBL method employed in East Africa and the AIMS network employed by the African Institute for Mathematical Science. There are lots of success stories. There are lots of students who have benefited from it. I was surprised when we went to that on their website, just having a bit looking at what aims what their network was all about. I was surprised that they have an astrology opening for using AI for some for some space technology. It's actually interesting. It's actually amazing knowing that we have models that can push the boundaries. It's just a matter of um, employing them or creating the awareness and getting people to actually get on board with us. And now this leaves us at a junction where we see the critical problems, like everyone have a have an idea, but what can we actually do to take this to make this transformation? What is our practical steps? Because even though we know we enjoy saying it, but not a lot of persons can actually do this. Now, this is a definitive call to action where we are at the point where we need to defend innovation if we want to um, see something different. And one way to do it is to call for curriculum reforms and advocate for both private and public academic partnership, which I believe this is also very important because it gets academias in public universities to reflect and see on what private universities are doing and take that knowledge back to public universities and do their best to drive change. And as well, we must be open-minded to the support of innovation-driven university transformation. This is very important. And at an individual level, there is a need for us to invest in interdisciplinary solving programs because it's not just about going online if you want to learn how to do something, to learn how to do it just for the sake of making money, but find out that what you're doing drives an impact to the next person, the person next to you, and how you can how the economy can of any country where you reside in Africa can benefit from it. So yes, it's a call to action, and because we need to defend innovation, and I do believe this is what Cosmos Academy is all about, and this is what Cosmos Academy is seeking to do. Have not just people who just want to learn skills, but have people who want to um, innovate. There is a clear difference. And thank you for listening. I know the numbers may have been burdensome, but it's really important we have a look at these numbers and reflect on it. Thank you. I believe this is
All right,
where
thank you so much. Yeah, so thank you so much. Thank you so much, Israel, for the timely presentation. And I think you said it already, which is the fact that you laid emphasis the fact that Cosmos Academy is actually trying to do the same thing, right? Because when we don't focus on pay little attention to the way our curriculum is being developed, we get to really become addicted over time, right? Because if you don't quickly reform, curriculum. I think you also mentioned that 3 years interval. I think 3 years is a very good time compared to 20 years before we reform curriculum, which is very bad. We know that the rate at which technological advancement is moving very fast. So there's a need to now hasten the amount of time we actually reform academic curriculum. And at College Academy, one of our primary focus is our curriculum, right? It's one of our goals, because we are future curriculum and future focused, whereby any data skills that is being out right now, while we're studying at the foundation, we're not studying at the foundation that is back in the 1990s, like you mentioned, right? Imagine coming to a university and they're teaching you Fortran programming or COBOL programming, when right now they have programming language like Python and JavaScript, right? So I think that's really, really timely. Thank you so much. I don't know if anyone has a question before we move on to the next speaker. Any question from our audience? You can leave your question in the comment section, or you can raise your hand and you'll be allowed to mute yourself to ask your question. Any question? All right. Okay. Sorry, let me check. All right, so there's no question. So I'll just ask one particular question. I think it's a very simple question, right? So we're talking about universities, but there's one trendy thing that is really happening in the African community, which is online learning platforms. Coursera, Udemy, Audacity, ALX, and there's a popular ALX course which is virtual assistant. A lot of people are just taking virtual assistant course. So I don't know. Do you think the curriculum reform is only limited to universities? Or we can also do better as online learning platforms. We can actually start thinking about integrating our own curriculum to be much more future focused, as well as seeing how even universities can actually still copy our curriculum. What do you think about that?
No, like I mentioned earlier, at an individual level, we need to take responsibility. Waiting a fully flagged university for university to go fully flagged to do a whole lot of curricular reforms and transformation will take time. There are a lot of bureaucratic legislations that would serve as bottleneck to that process already. And as we know, learning at every level, it's not just at a university level only. Yeah, yes, that's true. These days, you could get degrees without even going physically to university. And there are lots of online platforms where you can own your skills, do a lot of things. So no, it's not limited. But the idea is not to have it as a body of even though it's good to have it at that university structured way, but the idea is to make it at an individual level. The innovative mindset is embedded. The innovation mindset is embedded. So it's not something that only universities can do. Online platforms, yes, Coursera, as you mentioned, Udemy, no, Coursera. I know of Coursera, Udacity. They are doing that already. They are using these models. They are using these approaches to overcome this problem. So yes, many online learning platforms can benefit from things like this because it's more accessible than an average university.